Season 4 has just been announced to release in a couple of weeks, actually on the 23rd and 24th of April, and it is time to come back to WoW. Or is it? It's always going to be a subjective discussion when we talk about this, and are we going to be shills or are we actually going to speak the truth about WoW and whether you should play it or wait for the war within? Let's see what we have. Well, right now we know that we're in 10.2.6 and 10.2.6 came with Plunderstorm and a bunch of other updates, but the real update is going to be Season 4 that launches on the 23rd and 24th of April. Great! Season 4 comes with all of the dungeons that Dragonflight released, with the exception of Dawn of the Infinites, because we've had it for enough time. I think it's time to go back to the roots. And we're going to have, well, not faded raids, but we're going to have awakened raids, and we're going to have all of the Dragonflight raids available at the same time, kind of on a rotation to keep us engaged and give us some fun content. On top of all of this, a bunch of other stuff is coming with Season 4 and eventually 10.2.7 along the lines, which is still part of Season 4 and kind of in the same big bucket. Now, there's a lot to be excited about Season 4, but at the same time, I know some players, because I have some friends as well, that are like, nah, this is still not good enough, I'm gonna wait for War Within. So which one are you? Should you change your mind? Should you actually play Season 4, 10.2.6, 10.2.7, or wait for the War Within? Well, let's see exactly what we have, because we can be subjective. We are content creators making content on WoW, so there is some bias, implicit bias there to begin with. And we're subjective in the sense that, well, we really love the game. We have a vested interest in playing the game, probably more than most people. So maybe us telling you to play or not to play is not really gonna resonate with you all at the same time. So here's my subjective, I love playing WoW take, and here's that, listen, maybe you should wait for War Within take. First of all, let's look at the Let's Play WoW first. Season 4 is actually really cool, and to kind of give you the general opinion first and then go into the details, if you liked playing Shadowlands and BFA in any capacity, at least some parts of it, doing endgame, then you're gonna love Season 4 of Dragonflight, which, I know that doesn't really say much, or if anything, that detracts you from playing even more, but hear me out. In terms of actual Mythic Plus and raids, Season 4 is actually really good. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. We've done plenty of videos on it, and I think you've seen probably or heard at least Bellular's video on the numbers of subscribers that WoW currently has, and I think by the time you watch this, the GDC discussions will be live as well, so we will know exactly what's going on with the number of the players playing WoW. But we know one thing for sure, is that WoW is being played more at this moment, before Season 4 releases, is being played more than it has ever been played in the last 2 expansions, in terms of actual people logging and all of that stuff, and in terms of subscribers as well. Funny enough, this number came out after we've did all of the videos looking at logs and parses and saying that, dude, there's like 5 times more logs and parses now than ever since Legion. And that was like, dude, that doesn't make sense. There couldn't possibly be 5 times more people, where there are probably not 5 times more people, but there's definitely more people than we've had in the last couple of expansions, and there is a reason for that. The reason is very simple. Playing WoW is fun, and that has a lot to do with what Dragonflight is. And if you haven't played Dragonflight yet, or if you've played, let's say, first season, then you're like, maybe this isn't for me, and you trailed off, here's stuff that you might enjoy, but I'm not saying that you should. You might enjoy the new talent system. The classes that are actually played right now, after multiple reworks for a lot of them, majority of the classes, are actually really fun. The talent system is really cool. All of what your class does is incorporated within your class. There's no external power system that you need to grind to make your class complete. Remember those times back in BFA when your spec just didn't feel right unless you had those Azerite traits, or in Legion with the artifact weapon, or in Shadowlands with the legendaries? Yeah, I remember those times too. Those sucked. But that's not the case anymore. Your class is actually complete. Sure, the tier set makes it a little bit more fun, and having really cool trinkets bumps the numbers as well, but that's always going to be the case, right? Tier sets have been the thing since vanilla, and trinkets also since vanilla, so that's not necessarily a surprise there or anything new, but the classes are fun, and this of course could be subjective. They're way more fun than they have been probably ever that I have personally played. They're more intricate, and the simple classes are more fun, have more engaging rotations, but you know, this can all be subjective, so you might not like it. Sure, I do have to point the elephant in the room. Some classes did not receive the new treatment as much as everybody else. DKs, for instance, are still some of the classes that still need reworks, and that's funny because I'm actually considering maining a DK despite Rogue being one of the best designed classes together with Red Paladins and Havoc Demon Hunters, and still I want to play DK because it plays really well. Even if it's kind of the same playstyle, it's been chiseled, it's been refined, it does really well, and that essentially applies to all of the specs. Now that's the gameplay part of it. In terms of end game, raids have never been more fun, where Amir Drisil is definitely the most fun raid we've had so far. And if we're gonna take Shadowlands as any indication for the Season 4 Awakened/Fated style of raiding, where you have all of the raids on a rotation, raiding is gonna be even more fun because, first of all, if you have thought or have had this thought at any point in time, coming in Season 4, man, I just don't want to prog all of the raids again, or I haven't played the raids before, or I've played them before, I don't remember what they're doing anymore. The raids are gonna get nerfed, turbo giga nerfed. They're being nerfed at the moment, so essentially, if you've progressed through Vault of the Incarnates in Season 1 and you're thinking that you forgot 100% of it, you're gonna have an easier time playing it, like significantly easier time playing it now in Season 4 with everything going on. That's the point of it. That's why we only have access to a raid, well, the Awakened version of the raid, that is, because all the other raids are still up. We only have access to those once every 3 weeks, and that's going to be so easy that you're probably going to just clear the entire heroic bosses, if you're like a heroic raider, in half of your normal raid night. That's how it ended up being in Shadowlands over the course of the patch. So you essentially can just do an entire clear of an entire raid within 1 week with no actual progress issues. Maybe if you go on Mythic, maybe if you haven't cleared it before, or maybe if it's a little bit of your above your skill level, but you are going to kill bosses harder than what you are used to within the Awakened season. That is how Season 4 for Fated worked in Shadowlands. That's how it's going to be now, and because it's going to be easier, it's more fun, there's more incentive to play it. Plus, the loot is crazy, especially in Amir Drisil. Farming the loot, that cool weapon, the legendary weapon, if that's something for you, is going to be really, really fun, and the items are actually really strong. So that's always great for an RPG, to be able to have some loot that, you know, gives you the power, gives you the feelings like, man, I'm just gonna smack some stuff with it. And obviously, gearing your character through the endgame content, and we're gonna get to Mythic Plus as well, is going to be great for the War Within launch, when the pre-patch is going to come sometime in the summer, if they're going to be respecting their roadmap for 2024, and you're going to start leveling within War Within by fall, probably. We don't really have the release date, but roadmap once again, then, you know, having all this extra loot is going to feel that much better going to the War Within. Now, in terms of Mythic Plus, the system has also been made way, way, way more fun. First of all, we don't have a seasonal affix anymore. If you've missed that part, the affixes themselves are way easier. They've been nerfed multiple times, and the scaling is better, essentially. Plus, you now have a meaningful loot progression as you go through Mythic Plus, where you can loot items and constantly upgrade their eye level more and more and more to kind of reflect the overall progression within your Mythic Plus season, or even in raids as well, because the item upgrade system is also present in the raid, to make it feel like you're not wasting your time, or that you're not losing out on eye levels for not playing a harder content. You can still get decent gear from lower content if you're not interested in getting the highest level of content, period. Now, another thing about Mythic Plus, which is probably a controversial topic, but I am going to stand my ground on this: Dragonflight dungeons are the funnest dungeons so far. Sure, they're the newest dungeons so far, and we've played them the least out of all of the dungeons, but they're also very, very big on AoE. And big AoE has always been some of the best and most fun times people have had in Mythic Plus. I can speak for myself, I can speak for anybody that has said anything about how fun M Plus is when there's big giga packs and giga AoE. That is just stupid, ridiculous fun, since that's kind of like the majority, or at least most of the Dragonflight dungeon pool that we're gonna have in Season 4. And on top of all of this, concerning both Mythic Plus and Raids, we're gonna have the dinar system, where you essentially play the content and you unlock the, well, it's not the dinar, but it's the bullion. It's a token that you can use to buy actual predetermined gear that can be upgraded all the way to the max eye level permitted within the game, regardless of the content that you're doing to get that item for yourself. So if you're not a mythic raider and you raid heroic, you'll be able to buy one of these items, and if you farm the crests, I think the aspect crest or whatever they're going to be called, the highest level difficulty crest, which you don't have to do mythic rating for, then you can upgrade that item eventually to a mythic quality item, so you can get the best gear in the game. And you don't have to worry about the RNG of that one trinket just never ever dropping. Now this is the good part of Season 4, coupled with probably what 10.2.7 is going to bring, but we don't know too much about that. We just know that it's going to be new events, and the time walking pandemonium is all up for grabs as to what it is about. But let's talk about why probably you should wait for the War Within. With all of the good changes, because there are plenty of good changes, and I do have to stress this out because it seems like whenever people talk about the negative aspects of Dragonflight, they don't give the devs the credit that they're due, with the fact that they've improved a lot of the core aspects. But a lot of the other core aspects are not yet improved. The new player experience is still going to be difficult, so if you've never played WoW right now, it's not necessarily like you cannot play WoW if you're a new player, but it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be a little bit weird coming into WoW now as opposed to the War Within. However, I'm not sure if this will be fixed in the War Within either, because we don't know too much about the new player experience. All we know is that new player experience, although there are tools to make it easy for you to get into the game, there's going to be a lot of stuff slapping you into the face, and you won't know what most of it is until you actually dedicate a lot of time to it, just to find out that later on it doesn't really matter that much. That's still part of the game, and that still sucks when it comes to, you know, leveling, going through all their expansions. In the end, WoW is an expansion-based game where nothing matters except for the latest expansion. Now, if you're excited about War Within and you want to have time to understand what WoW is all about, maybe it is a good time to come now and experience Season 4. Even if it's clumsy, even if you won't get much out of it, you'll at least start to understand what the game is. Another core aspect of the game is the setting. I gotta be honest, I am not a fan of it either. The story is not something that I particularly enjoy, and it is part of the reason why a lot of players are still not excited to come back to WoW. The overall feel of the expansion being soft in the way of an epic story that should be told should be, of being overly emotional, and NPCs and characters being a little bit flaccid or uninspiring or unheroic or anything like that. Like, nobody is really cool, nobody's really epic anymore. Everybody's just like, oh, I guess we're empowered now, yay, power of friendship. That's, you know, if you don't like that kind of stuff, then and all of the other stuff isn't doing it for you, then you should probably wait for the War Within. That hasn't changed. It's still a little bit weird. Like, if we take a look at evokers as a representation of the parts of modern WoW that personally I think are a little bit on the negative side, or a lot on the negative side, depending on how you like your fantasy games to be, it's soft, it's not epic, it's not the dragons that you want, it's not the cool fantasy story that you want. It's still a lot of NPCs sitting there doing nothing and sending you on quests, and there you're the champion. But even like if you look at the raid finale cinematics for Amir Drusel, for Aberys, for Vault of the Incarnates, they're all a little bit meh. Maybe the coolest character that we still have to this day is Iridikron, because he's just cool, badass. He gives off this air of intelligence and foreshadowing a lot of conflict to come in the future, and a lot of no bullshit, I'm gonna get things done. And it's probably one of the first villains that we have had, or that we have seen in the game, that's like, no, I'm not gonna fight you yet because you guys are like some nasty motherfuckers, so I'm just gonna take my time and plan to actually be able to win. Like, we didn't really have this type of villain before, and he's not in the game. You don't get to fight. I mean, you fight Iridikron in Dawn of the Infinites, but that's not part of the Season 4 anymore, and you don't really fight him. That's like a time travel thing, right? there's no story that comes out of Iridikron just yet. It will probably come in the World Soul Saga. I don't even know if it's going to come in War Within. We don't know yet. It could be. But the coolest character in all of Dragonflight just goes away after the first the raid, and that's pretty much about it. In terms of new content for you to do, sure, there's like the new world events with the soup and the stuff, but that usually gets boring after you do it a couple of times, and that's not something for you to do for a whole new season. You can play Plunderstorm, and that's pretty cool, but that's also divisive content, and I'm not sure if that actually, no, I am sure that is not for everybody. There's not much else new for you to do. There's no new endgame content. Sure, the endgame content that we have is pretty good and it's been polished as much as it can be polished, but it's pretty much the same formula. It's pretty much the same thing. You just farm Mythic Plus all day, and then you do the raid once per week, and then, well, thankfully you get to do a new fresh raid next week, but that's still the same raids that we've had so far. And although the Mythic Dungeon pool for Season 4 is cool, and I'm personally excited because I love the Dragonflight dungeons, we don't have new dungeons, period. We don't even have old dungeons being revamped, which for some people could have been new content, but that's not even coming back as well. And this is not necessarily to criticize that, oh, we should have had this. I'm just telling, listen, if you're expecting new stuff or if you love new things, that's not going to be Season 4. Season 4 is going to be something to keep you busy if you like WoW and you don't really want to stop and you want to prep your characters, maybe play some molds, maybe experience a different side of the game until War Within comes out. That's really the purpose for Season 4. It's not going to be this magical comeback to WoW moment that you might be hoping for, but this is the overall look at the game itself. If you like playing dungeons and if you like playing raids and if you've had fun in Dragonflight, Season 4 is going to elevate that to the next level. I personally think so, because all of the content that we're going to have access in Season 4 was the good content that we've had in Dragonflight, and is going to be way more fun because less restrictions, more items, more freedom to do stuff. If you're looking for new things, for that oh moment, for that things to bring you back, probably wait for the War Within. And listen, War Within is coming with a bunch of cool stuff, and we already made videos on it, especially the hero talents for the warrior, which is bringing back big executes and big blade storms for your generic class boy warrior. Click it right in here. Have fun.